A revived Iran nuclear deal is now seeming more unlikely to be reached anytime soon. Jonathan Lord is a senior fellow and director of the Middle East Security Program at the Center for New American Security. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, remind us of that original Iran nuclear deal and how effective was it before the U.S. pulled out?
Certainly. The Iran nuclear deal, formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, signed in 2015 during the Obama administration between the U.S., Iran, and a number of other nations, was fairly effective. The deal was basically this. It controlled and throttled Iran's ability to produce nuclear material in exchange for the lifting of certain sanctions, and it was working.
And so what happened after the U.S. withdrew in 2018?
Well, President Trump didn't like the deal. He campaigned on tearing up the deal, ultimately believing it was too weak. And when the U.S. withdrew, the U.S. instituted unilaterally a series of sanctions, and Iran progressively began to restore its nuclear capability and nuclear material stockpile over time.
So why is it important to revive that deal now?
Frankly, we're in a period where we have very little control on Iran's nuclear program. The maximum pressure campaign instituted by the Trump administration really failed to constrain the nuclear program as they would have liked. And so there's nothing really keeping Iran from pursuing a nuclear weapon at this point.
And have they continued to pursue nuclear weapons in the time since?
They have worked to put themselves in a position to be able to break out towards a nuclear weapon by doing a high enrichment of uranium and stockpiling that uranium and continuing to develop their technology such that eventually they could, if they wanted to, build a nuclear weapon.
So the U.S. and Iran have been, going back and forth, of course, through the Europeans. They're not speaking directly. Any idea about what each side is really asking for?
Sure. I think the U.S. side wants a simple return to the deal as it was left, and it appears that the Iranians have put other conditions on their return. Currently, I think
additional from what was in the 2015 agreement.
That is what is being reported. There is an outstanding and open case being investigated by the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, looking at 3 instances where there was nuclear material in Iran in places where it shouldn't have been. And so that is an ongoing investigation, and the Iranians want that either scrubbed or want that closed before the deal is re-implemented. And that is the major sticking point right now. The Europeans recently stated that the deal doesn't look good as a result of this new condition.
There's also this issue of, look, you can't come at a later time, a later president, and just scrub it like you did last time. That's never going to happen.
Right. I mean, that is a major concern. Detractors, critics, opponents of the deal have made no secret of their opposition, and should they regain the executive branch, likely would scrap the deal. I thought that would have been a larger concern. The Iranians seem to have been concerned about that, but somehow seem to have moved past it through the negotiation.
You know, Jonathan, there's been increased U.S. military activity in the region. What's going on there? What impact will that have on negotiations?
Frankly, I think they're sort of separate files, particularly for the Iranians. The U.S. presence in Syria has been to train and equip partners to fight and defeat ISIS. That continues. That is contested territory. It's key territory, and there are groups that are otherwise in the Iranian orbit that like to do business in that area, and they're going to keep pressure on the U.S. forces.
They're, speaking about now Israel, because they have a big issue with Iran and their possibility of getting a nuclear weapon. They've said that they will act to prevent Iran from becoming a nuclear state. What have they done in the past? What do you think they're willing to do?
I mean, that's true. They're not a party to the agreement. In the past, they have unilaterally attacked nuclear facilities in Syria, for instance, that were being developed reportedly by the North Koreans. And they have continued to strike targets that are Iranian military targets in Syria that are otherwise in support of Hezbollah in Lebanon. The U.S. just agreed to sell 4 KC-46 tankers, 48 tankers, to the Israelis, which would actually provide them a greater capability to extend their ability to reach Iran if they were ever to strike Iran directly.
And was that intended as a message to Iran that, you know, we're still going to support Israel, or what was that supposed to be?
Yeah, I think it's hard to take it as anything, you know, else. Certainly a message. The timing is considerable. The timing of the delivery of those weapons would come around the time that certain key provisions in the JCPOA would sunset, giving Israel that capability should the Iranians choose to pursue nuclear weapons at that time. So I do think there is a message in there.
What do we know about the timeline on these negotiations? Are we going to be expecting an actual agreement anytime soon?
I don't think we know. I think we've been expecting an agreement for a long time. We've been sort of in a will they or won't they for months. I think agreements kicked off really in April of 2021. Things moved slowly because the Iranians went to an election. Ibrahim Raisi, a hardline conservative, was elected in August 2021, and things moved slowly from there. And they've moved back and forth. So frankly, we don't know.
All right. Well, we'll have to see. Thank you, Jonathan, so much.
Thank you, Mimi.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future Government Matters interviews.